Welcome to Tripod. We're in our 10th year, I understand. I've been saying 7, but I guess it turns out it's 10. So next month, could somebody bring an anniversary cake? A really big one?
Invite a baker to speak.
Oh, good idea. So I'm Lynn, Nino, and we have 3 speakers tonight, as usual. And the bathroom is down that hall, and if you go down there, be sure and close the door. Not this door, but the other door. Okay, this door too. These shows are recorded and uploaded onto YouTube. So after the fact, if you're one of the presenters and you dare to see how you came off, you can take a look. I never look at them myself. Okay, so first up is Adam Martin. He's a Pacific Northwest-based artist, producer, and community collaborator who has spent more than a decade using light, music, and the arts to enhance life in the South Puget Sound region. In 2012, he naively but boldly facilitated a 3-way collaboration between luminary masters at Olympia's Procession of the Species. Were any of you here for the Procession of the Species tripod show about 6 months ago? Also, the Broadway Center for the Arts and his new arts organization, Artists for Life in the Sound. And Stars for Peace was born, a new medium of light and sound promoting learning and philanthropy. In 2017, he established The Wall. If you want to see that on the internet, it's lookwashington.com, an innovative philanthropic platform using music as an engine in collaboration with business and art communities to drive support for community organizations across Washington state. As founder of Stars for Peace, Adam encourages others to responsibly engage in South Sound life and encourages our better humanity in the face of collective challenges faced during the current day. Adam? So I'm going to put the timer on, so each person is speaking for 15 minutes. So that you don't fall asleep.
Well, Lynn, thank you for having me here. This is the first time I've ever done a public presentation like this, so thank you. My name's Adam. I really did very naively in 2012 engage this. I had been to give you a little bit of background, I had been to a wedding reception where the couple came from families of exceptionally different backgrounds. And there was a lot of unease amongst the family, and they foresaw this. And they created an event that night that was unlike anything that I had ever experienced. And they used music, art, and cuisine to break down the barriers between the 2 different families and brought them together. And I thought, well, why can't we do that? If they can hire a whole bunch of artists to do this, why can't we as artists just do that? I had no idea. I didn't know about the politics and all of that. I didn't understand it. So I just did it. In 2010, I had been talking about this event. In 2010, a grandmother took me down to the Procession of the Species, knowing that it would light a spark, I'm sure, but she didn't tell me that. She didn't even tell me what I was going down there for. And lo and behold, it lit the spark. And the next year, I introduced myself to them. And then the following year, I'll get into that here. But that gives you some background for it. So this young woman here, Vicky Martinez, it was her birthday show from The Voice. She came back from her national tour from The Voice. She got 2nd place. And it was her birthday show coming back into the Pantages. And we're friends as a music community. We're a relatively small community. And I thought, well, let's just crash her birthday with this thing. I don't know why to this day they said okay, but I explained to them that we didn't have a luminary tradition in Tacoma. And he right away came up to teach us how to do basic luminary craft. And if you can build a star, you can build anything. But I was horrible. I had eight of us got together and crashed her birthday party. And she was born on the International Day of Peace. That's how peace became written in the stars, so to speak. And I took on the idea that this was something exceptionally bigger than me from the get-go. You couldn't plan all of that if you had 5 lifetimes to. So I just created it as a public work to be a service to the people around me. Where do I push the point?
It's a radio. You don't have to point anywhere.
Oh, I just... And this is the Spanish Steps, if you know where the Elks is now. When a fun story to tell about the procession is when we came down, I hadn't ever led a procession before, and Broadway Center was half an hour behind, and so they said, "Oh, you got to pause." So I go and tell Levi, "We got to pause." And he didn't blink. He didn't pause. You can't stop a procession, Adam. It just dissipates. And he just went straight through the 9th Street barriers, right across 9th Street, right down Broadway. When we got to the Spanish Steps, I said, these are really important for our music community. We're not going to let Portland take our music culture. So that's what that picture is. We went up Opera Alley and made our way back to the Pantages, just in time for them to usher us in. There's a video online. If you want to go, most all of this is online at starsforpeace.org. But that's a segue. So that's my niece, Scarlett. She inspired a whole lot of this. My idea was to have a learning platform that was appropriate for ages 12 and under, through the stars. So if Olympia starts the stars, why don't we incorporate volunteering with our local organizations around the different themes? So we started the next year with the oceanic theme. And this is my mother. She came to visit me in the holidays of November 2014 and met that man, Denny Faker, and fell in love just about immediately. This is Levi and the procession people that helped me. And this is me presenting my learning platform, Y2112. The idea is 100 years from now, what life do we want to live? What do we want to have available? In order to learn that as a young child, you have to learn a whole lot more than just the linear forward motion. So it was a more thorough way to learn about it, and that was my idea. Little did I know I would have the chance to inaugurate that. This is before I knew that Vicky was on her way back. And that's Lynn at the market on Market Street. This is me at the market on Market Street, and that's Colin Reynolds, a musician. So we use music and art to support these things. And then Lynn was part of it that year, 2012. And then so my idea was we'll have a Festivus. It's just a community Festivus, if you know the Seinfeld holiday. It's frivolity, but it's a tradition to have nonetheless. And you can go online to learn a lot more than I'll get into here about what it looks like. We would, if you know the artwork of Maria Jost, how would I put this in a concise form? We did a series of events in 2014. I'll get to, I guess, in a moment. So the 2013 was the first year that we had I had time to plan it. And the way they do it down in Olympia is they have, if you know the procession of the species, they do it by element, the fire, the air, the water, etc. And I said, well, we're just going to start with water because a lot of mythologies come out of water. And I like the mythologies. So the idea was to start our own mythology of a sense, but this is all very lighthearted. And as fortune would have it, Rosemary, who started the Tacoma Light Trail in 2020, interviewed me at Good Karma Center for Joy and wrote me up in the News Tribune that year. And some years later, she started Ocean Fest, and then she started the Light Trail in 2020. So you just never know how things will transpire. It's all beyond us, I think. Stina Troyer I met, she works for Harbor Wild Watch, and this is just an example of the kind of organizations. If you know the Tacoma Cabana couple, they own the Devil's Reef now. Stina is just an absolute godsend. She offsets my more seriousness with a levity that everybody that knows her knows is fantastic. She's been instrumental throughout the years in ways I couldn't even begin to describe. We began working in people's homes, but we also did yoga studios. This is us finishing a dragon that was started over at the Hilltop Artists. And this is the East Side Green Thumbs. And the idea was to spread this knowledge throughout our town through the organic community. And as much as they wanted to, they could then delve deeper. 2014, coming out of the ocean, you have the soil of earth. You'll see one of the top left, that's a Jane Goodall peace dove. We borrowed that from our friends in Olympia. With the Hilltop Artists we worked with that year. And you can see it's pertinent later on. In the top middle of this, the poster for that year, I had music and art in Wright Park. Because our idea is to use music, independent music, to promote these things. We worked with Hilltop Artists and we celebrated the Oceanic. This is a friend of mine's boy, he's much older now. That slide's out of space, but I think that it's there because of the Hilltop Artist things there. If you know this blue truck, it's Jenna English's truck over. She's one of the directors over at Spaceworks now. She's part of it. And this is us up at the conservatory. The conservatory, I won't go too much off tangent here. But I lived in Hilltop. It was my first proper Tacoma neighborhood that I moved to. And I lived on Hilltop and there were gunshots every night. So going to the conservatory was the only place that I really had that was calm. And it's just emphasizing that element. I believe very much that level of peace is required for, I don't know, the kind of society I desire anyway. This is T.R. Stewart. If you know T.R. from, some of you will remember the Puyallup Fair song way back when. It's now the Washington State Fair. He's the guy that wrote it. And so when I started this series of events, I asked him if he would please come perform for us. There's a family connection I won't go too far into, but anybody that knows TR is as genuine as they get. Really, really wonderful human. And I had met, in 2013, I met Dr. John Stark of Washington State University. He struck me, I met him through his kids. John Stark is perhaps the preeminent authority on the condition of West Coast waters that we have in Washington. He's one of them. He went to go, he had a thesis in his doctoral studies. He went to try to prove it. It's not possible to prove it in the wild, so what does he do? He creates with a friend of his the Salmon Research Facility over at Wazoo Puyallup campus and proves his thesis. In short, it's that toxins introduced into the environment also affect the breeding of fish and wildlife. And if we only account for mortality rate, it's not as sufficiently consequential as also accounting for birth rate, because an increase in or a decrease in birth rate is the same thing over a few generations as an increase in mortality rate. And I thought that was brilliant, so we did a show, and I had Bach to progressive rock at the Northern Pacific Coffee Company. It was an absolutely packed house. It was overflowing. It was past capacity. Carolyn Swinehart sang and played, and it was quite an evening for someone who you have to have a master's degree to get in his door. And we just wanted to celebrate him. But that's the idea of the type of knowledge. And the reason I go a little bit more into this is because it falls off like a cliff due to what happens next in my life. But this is the level that we started at. I think that this should be normative in our life. I just think that these things should be known and understood. You'll see a lot of families were involved. And we had created a Death Star in 2014. I won't go a whole lot into this, but the idea was to get rid of the evils collectively. We must work together, but we kept it lighthearted and fun. That's an actual photo. And then we did learning through the living landscape. You'll see Bix passed away that year, so I incorporated that into our logo. This is Eastside Green Thumbs. Everybody loved it. I met Eddie Harris and Dane Norman in 2015. These are names that come important. And I was in the Paris terrorist attacks. I was over in Paris for work randomly that night, and it changed my orientation personally. As important as those other learning things are and the considerations, there are things at a basic level that we as people must address if we need to get very far. One cannot measure the times, we are the times. I took that photo that night in Paris at a church. 2016, we had the attacks over at the Pulse nightclub, and I called the Rainbow Center, and I said, we need to do some sort of memorial at Pride. Can we work with you? And this is us at the Spaceworks building. We made 49 stars, one for each of the people that we lost. And we did something in remembrance. And that's us the night of. Me and my partner at the time. And that's Councilwoman Christina Walker. 2016, we made star kits and put them around the city to people. And then on the anniversary date of the Paris attacks, I hosted Adrienne Castillo of the Hope Victims Advocacy Foundation. We had 3 generations of women, if you know Kim Archer, Soteria, and then Abigail Nielsen, and 2 men who I trust as like family type guys. And we had Adrienne speak. Her testimony has inspired me to the current day. She's amazing. And the next year, I created the wall. We took 1/8 of Art on the Ave and installed it. I said, if they can have a wall, we can have a wall. What do we want to protect that's beyond negotiations? Again, you can learn most of this. If y'all know Mindy Barker, you see the bottom right, you'll see the butterflies there. We still have them. Mindy's art studio was directly across mine for a few years over at 6th and Orchard. They're still over there, and you see Adrienne above, and a friend of mine's son. But she did a paint by number. If we go back to 2015, we incorporated a chrysalis, and the idea is, what are we becoming? We got to think about these things. It was at that childish level, or childlike level, I should say. But I had met a guy named Eddie Harris, and I can't go too much into it. I just don't have time. But the idea was to get John Stark's work translated into the common parlance. And so I met a 15-year-old through the music community. I met her through her mother. And I met Eddie Harris. He's he's not pictured here. A self-taught artist that had worked on the original Scooby-Doo, worked with Hanna-Barbera, and he took her under his wings, taught her how to airbrush, got her into car magazines. It was a hoot. And I said, well, if we can get the car guys to support people like Adrienne, we win. So I invited them, and we did an art install, and we took 1/8 of Art on the Ave, and ended up being very, very effective. And I met this man, good friend of mine. His name's Terry Lumsden. He's an attorney. 51 years in Tacoma advocating for people and winning. He took on Arco. He's just he took on the mob back in the day. He's an indomitable Scottish guy, and he gave us his whole lower floor from 2017 on to bring in donations In 2016, I did a test run of donations around town. I didn't include the poster, but you can see it online. I didn't even have a car, but I said we need to start bringing donations in so that we can get them out to people in need, directly in need. If you know how a lot of nonprofits work, a lot of times they would bring clothes in and sell them by the pound, and that it jaded some people, I'll put it that way. And so they stopped giving, and I said, well, here's a way for us to give, and we'll give them directly to people in need. We still do this to this day, but it's got to be practical. And you can see the poster there. This is in 2017, and that's at the Spaceworks fundraiser. I forget where it was. And then I had Tiana Alexandra Silifant come. She's she's really well known from Hollywood from Hollywood to Hanoi with Oliver Stone. She worked with him, and this was the second of her films in that trilogy. She's the first filmmaker, American filmmaker. She's Vietnamese American, to interview the general that was in charge of the Vietnamese forces after the Vietnam War. And I had her come in with a veterans group. We did it a benefit. 022 was the name of the group. They were a fledgling. They wanted to be a nonprofit, but he just started doing it. He learned how to train his own service dog. He had PTSD. And I met him, and I liked what he was doing. And I said, if we can get Marines together with a filmmaker like this, we win. Believe it or not, the night went seamlessly. People were understandably standoffish to begin with, but as we also used food, Indochine catered it. A few friends made some things, and we used music, and we broke down those barriers just like that wedding. It's the same thing year after year, different people. And then we installed the conservatory again. We've installed the conservatory so many times, I didn't want to just say conservatory again, but that was a particularly good installation. You can see the stars that we had from that Pulse nightclub that we put in there. And always centering on hope. And this is 2017, the 6th Avenue Santa Parade. That's the Great Star. We paraded it down. And the idea is to teach that next generation piece. But we have to do it, I believe that we have to do that proactively. It's not I'm not the biggest pacifist. I believe that I'm more in the MLK line of it. We got to be proactive about it. And then I incorporated that year. I didn't go into our logo, but you can find more about it online. The reasons that people come to Tacoma are very many. We should incorporate that into our work. And there's a guide that I wrote some years ago. This is me at Wright Park with Terry's, the Scots guy. He has the largest whiskey box collection in the world. That's the first project I worked for him on. And I was starting the Grit City Co-op at the time. That's Douglas, just to show that this is how we do it. This is the work that we do. You can see the chrysalis in the far left there, barely. And this is 2017 as well. That peace dove, you see the wing of it. The peace dove, this one, it was not a Jane Goodall one. This is Jason Holland. The wings stretched from curb to curb exactly on 6th Avenue, and this is the Demolay girls. And I bring this up because it has to do with getting this work into the younger generation. These are youth from not necessarily privileged, but they're pretty well off. They're okay. And then we had been bringing donations in. This all came from a local tattoo parlor on 6th Avenue, Brass Monkey. They collaborated with us. It's all brand new. They gave free tattoos to people who brought clothes in. And these are, they wanted to be photographed. I almost never photograph faces unless I'm asked to. But on Christmas Eve, we went out, and they were just stoked. They got so much new clothes and waterproof everything, and it was amazing. Literally, we had $300 and $400 jackets we were giving away that day without any exaggeration. They were stoked. 2019, I took on a music festival that has its roots in the early 1990s, right when Soundgarden and Nirvana were literally had band practice here. So right when it was just going to explode internationally, that was all nascent here. 1 minute. Okay, I'll go fast. The Roosevelt, 2020. Dane Norman, 2020, releases The Lantern. We still did a food drive for Catherine's Place. We installed, this is a light show. In 2021, we put a donation station at Marlene's. It's still there. And I started developing the wall. The wall right now, I should say, this past year, I host the Tacoma Santa Parade now. And last year, we gave 15,000 pounds of food and 2,000 toys away. And the wall has gone from a word-of-mouth thing where people go and they choose an organization like Hope or Coffee Oasis or Oasis Youth Center to support. And now it's online. We're going to watch. This just put in pilot about 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's online now, and it's raw structure. And we're just going to watch as Hope spreads throughout the South Sound all year as we lead up to the Santa Parade. People choose the cause that they want to support. And then they get music, deals at local businesses, and art. I also put a guide. So it's one thing to tell people where to go for resources if you go through something like domestic abuse. It's a whole other thing to be able to foresee it. And having worked with them for a decade, I put together a social playbook for seeing it, what happens. If something happens to you, what to do, the emergency numbers, the timeliness with which you need to seek your care, and the legal resources available to you. And then if you're deep in it, how to get out. All these resources are online. And then in the scene right now, a lot of people don't know, 50% of women right now in the United States have, they're affected by drink spiking. It's pretty serious. If you know people, sorry. It's close to home. It's more in younger generations. And people need to know. So that's what it's about.
Adam, there might be questions.
Oh, sorry.
And I have a question. One of the images had a graphic in it on a poster. Somebody was carrying it, I believe it said Teach Peace.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful graphic. Did anybody notice that? Is that your graphic, or do you know who did that?
I found it.
You did?
Yeah.
It's really super clever. It should be.
Wrapped around it is a saying from Einstein. I won't be able to quote it so many years ago, but I thought the same thing. It was ornate. Has to do with the imagination.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
I feel like I flooded all this like so much. Thanks. Thank you.
So Teresa Owens is next. She's a Tacoma-based artist. I think many of you know her. She acquired many creative skills from the talented women in her family. Teresa has an undergraduate degree in physics and graduated from the now-defunct University of Puget Sound School of Law. She is a former attorney for Washington State. The Lichen Crochet Project is her latest creative endeavor, funded by the Tacoma Arts Initiative Program grant for the city. Teresa?
Okay, the first question I'm usually asked is why lichen? And I've been observing lichen closely for, there you go. Is that better? Yes. Okay, I've been observing lichen closely for a very long time. I find it really cool, its texture, its shape. It's just really amazing. And about 4 years ago, or more maybe, I started collecting and photographing them. And these are, that one's very cool. And that one was huge. It was probably a foot wide. And there's a couple different kinds on that piece. I'm going to show you some more. Lichen are millions of years old evolutionary-wise, and they grow everywhere, including the Arctic, which is pretty cool. And they come in all sorts of colors. The ones I have here mostly are in the kind of light green, grayish range, but that's because we're here. And that's mostly where I've collected the lichen. So I'm not good at identifying specific lichen, but there's, I talked to this UPS biology professor, and she recommends a cell phone app called Seek, which is S-E-E-K, and for identifying plants and lichen, and they also do animals. So it's a really, if you don't have it, it's really fun. Go through some more lichen here. That's a nice piece. But you can see that one I can identify. Those are pixie cups, as they ought to be called. Those are some on the street. For comparison, those are my feet. But a lot of times, what isn't bird droppings or gum is lichen, and particularly on older sidewalks. Lichen are interesting biologically, and I don't fully understand this because it's not part of my expertise, but lichen are the symbiosis of two separate species living and growing together. There's fungus and usually algae are the two species. And I just think this goes to prove that nature is more cooperative than most human beings are. Yeah. So the next question I'm asked is why crochet? And crocheted wool is not my usual art medium. My artwork has usually been very small, intricate. I've done paper casting, bead weaving, bead embroidery. I've done mixed media, crowns and tiaras. When I discovered that, I might be able to crochet this. I've crocheted for many years since I was 5 or 6 when my grandmother taught me. I'm not very good at it, but when I decided that I could crochet lichen, I wanted to do it on a really large scale. And I think we're getting some more lichen. There's some yellow lichen I found on a fence. Okay, that's a prototype I made of a crocheted lichen. And it's not the right color that I wanted, but it was the prototype that I had. And then I started working with a closer color range. And then I got 30 skeins of yarn. And then I found out recently that that wasn't enough. So I got more yarn in the mail today. I'm making 2 panels. Each one will be about 2 feet by 6 feet. I originally wanted to do 3 panels, but I had to get real about how much yarn it would take and how much time it would take. And so I'm doing 2 panels. There's one of the crocheted lichen forms from the pattern I developed. And this is, I laid out a 2 foot by 2 foot space on a table, and just laid them out, just set them down on the table, so that I could see, first of all, how many it would take and what it might kind of look like. And then we started crocheting, and it's a community crochet project. I really want the people who are almost solely women to share their traditional craft form as an art. That's one of the reasons it's on a large scale. I find that people are surprised that we're using crochet to make art, and that's a good thing. And you know, there's no way I could have done this project without doing it as a community project. It's just too much crocheting. I'm going to show you some more hands. I try to get everybody's hands in, just for the record. And I'm not very good about backgrounds. I can crochet better than I can photograph. But this was fun. This woman told me that there's lichen in her tattoo. I can't see it in the photograph, but I take her word for it. And I didn't want to get releases from everybody, so I just said, I'm just going to take your hands. And I'm going to, those are small hands. I'm going to put together a scrapbook of the hands and documenting the process and who participated and that kind of thing. Right now, the crocheting part of the project is about half done. I always need crocheters if there's anybody who wants to volunteer. You only have to chain and single crochet, which is pretty basic. The next crochet session is tomorrow at the Moore Library from 12:30 to 3. And there will be lots more sessions scheduled in the future. There's some scheduled now through April, and it's going to continue through September. There's going to be an unveiling event in October at the Tacoma Nature Center, and all my crocheters will get a picture postcard of the final project. I have 2 mailing lists, which you can sign up for if you see me afterwards. One's for crocheters, and the other's for anybody who's interested in coming to the event in October. Questions?
Any questions?
So, did you come up with the pattern?
Yes.
Okay, and is that one, are you just doing one kind of lichen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It had to be a pretty straightforward pattern to be able to be done by, you know, a variety of skill levels.
But they're being done in different weights of yarn and
No.
colors?
No, I ordered hand-dyed yarn. It's worsted weight. I have 14 size 5mm hooks that I take with me. And so it'll be pretty uniform, but with some texture and depth to it.
Right, and you will, do you know how you're gonna put it on the panels yet?
Yeah, I have these frames that my brother-in-law built, and I'm going to put chicken wire over those and then sew it onto that. So they'll be fairly lightweight, and they'll fit in my car.
Try it on. Works much better. Do you have a yard full of lichen?
I live in a condo. I do have a picture of the lichen on the rock in front of my house. So.
That explains the lichen on my concrete pad at home.
Oh, yeah.
I thought, are there a lot of seagulls around here?
No, no.
Hang on a second. If you speak into this microphone, that helps when we put these events on YouTube.
I was wondering, do you have an idea for your next project?
I'm not sure I'm going to take on anything quite this size next. I may do it again, but it may take me some time to recover. Organizing the meetings and the sessions has become time-consuming, and I'd rather spend my time making art than scheduling meetings.
Teresa has been posting these on the Tacoma Art Commission listserv. How many people here are on that? So people have seen the giant schedule she put up. Come and meet me at this library to crochet, or that library. Teresa, are lichen edible?
Some of them are. Deer like them. Certain kinds of deer like them very much. There's some lichen that are called reindeer lichen, and that is not, as I originally thought, because they look like reindeer horns. It's because reindeer eat them.
Okay. Any more questions? Thank you. That was great. There's a tripod sign-up form on that table back there. So if you aren't already getting the email invitations from me, print clearly, and I'll send them to you. Okay, next is Sam Day, and he was first published in newspapers at age 11, illustrating his father's articles for the Tri-City Herald and other newspapers in eastern Washington and northern Idaho. After studying briefly at Cornish and the Art Institute of Seattle, he illustrated for magazines such as Reader's Digest, educational books for Scholastic and Oxford University Press, and others, and storyboarded for dozens of clients through advertising agencies. And he'll probably tell you what storyboarding means. Since 2004, he has done oil paintings live at weddings and events, and has painted portraits and fine art. His first children's book comes out this spring. Sam?
I'd be happy to spend the first 5 minutes praising those first two speakers, because especially Adam, the fine art of making the world a better place. And Teresa, that was really, really interesting. I love lichen when I just go look at it, but I'm probably not examining it at the level that you are. Either one of these click me through? Well, that's the top of the picture. So while we're figuring this out, when I was asked for a title for my speech, I said, that'll work. Brave and foolish. Now, where did that phrase come from? The art critic Gary Fagan saw me paint live at a party. It was Kelly Lyle's birthday party, her 50th birthday party. And as he watched me paint, he thought for a while, and then he pronounced me brave and foolish. And I'm happy to own that. So what I was doing at Kelly's birthday party is what I do here, as I go to weddings and I do an oil painting of the wedding as it happens. And it's mostly an alla prima painting. So I'm done at the end of the evening. Yeah, I take it back to the studio and peck at it a little bit, but not too much, and I tell them I'll charge them if they ask for changes. So these paintings are generally done in like 5-6 hours. And in this case, I am looking at what I see for most of the picture, for everything that I paint, except for in this case, the couple. I snapped a picture of them beforehand because they asked for, a first dance picture. So this is something I make money at. I'll show you later some art that I don't make money at, but it's more important to me. There we go. This was a wedding. The couple met in Africa, and the wedding was at the zoo. Also a wedding. This is quite some time ago, so my phone capture of it is not very good. But that's a setup. So I'm without a beard. This was almost 20 years ago. But you see I'm painting a 4-foot by 6-foot painting for essentially a birthday party. I am not in order, but I'll tell you what I'm seeing anyway. This is the illustration style that I worked in before, and still, but lines are done in India ink with a brush and colored in watercolor. Can't remember the local magazine that this was for. I drew for a lot of magazines back in the 90s. Travel story. In this case, I was still drawing the lines with a brush, but scanning it and coloring it in Photoshop in this case. No, I won't tell you more about that. Caricature of my editor at Real Change News. I did political cartoons for a while. I did political cartoons when I was in high school for magazine or for newspapers in like Lewiston Tribune in Lewiston, Idaho, Daily News in Moscow, Idaho. I grew up in Pullman. My dad worked at WSU. And anyway, when the Charlie Hebdo attacks happened in 2015, I thought, I want to go back and do political cartoons. So I just walked across the street from my studio to the Real Change offices in Seattle and said, I'd like to do this for you. And I did it for a few years. And this is an example of one of those cartoons, Veterans Day Salute. Wow. So did I just click one or two? This is a portrait. We are not in order again. I don't know how this happened. But this is a commissioned pet portrait, oil on canvas. It's probably oil on linen. Also, well, we'll just see how the order goes. This is a portrait of a friend of mine. He's kind of a big guy. But the important thing to me, as I'm doing personal works, I'm doing paintings about things. I'm one of those crazy guys who swim in Puget Sound all year round. And I have a couple of friends who have swum from Tacoma, from Commencement Bay all the way to Seattle, 20 miles. I don't work hard enough to do that, but I swim with them in cold water all year round. And this is the guy. I hope the next picture is what I think it is. It is. My friend Jerome is actually 7 feet tall. And he's basically like Andre the Giant, and he has done these open water swims, not 20 miles, but more than 10 miles. So he's a big guy, and this painting is called The Bathhouse Guard. This is the Alki Bathhouse at Alki Beach, and he says he's calling on his shell phone. He has done some stand-up comedy, and he's a stand-up guy. And the dog's name is Louie that's sniffing his tail there. This is a typical Saturday morning for me and for several of my friends. And many of the people in the background, in the near background, are my friends. The woman on the far right, there's a PBS special about her. She just broke the North American record for the longest swim. It's called the longest ice swim, meaning water under 40 degrees, which is much colder than Puget Sound. Anyway, and the rest of that is Alki Beach as you would see it on a summer morning. So that's the kind of paintings that I like to do for myself. Oh, I did have a darker period. This is called Addiction, and that's my laptop. And that was even before social media. Okay, I was going to put these at the end. Part of my oeuvre is that I have done some religious paintings that were meaningful to me, and this is really actually chiding a lot of church-going people for not being able to recognize right in front of them the things they need to do to follow what they profess. When I do these kind of paintings, I paint from photo reference, and in this case, my models sat for me in Pioneer Square right by the pergola, and the people are all people that I know, including the man who actually was a homeless person. He got off the streets by selling real change newspapers, by the way. Oh, I wish that was bigger. Now it's bigger. Thank you. So this is a strictly biblical painting. I won't go into what it's all about, but I do want to say that when I did photo reference with my models, my photographer was Rosarie Lynch, who's right here today. I haven't seen her in a long time, and it was a nice surprise. There she is waving. So, you know, I would do a lot of preparation of what I want the picture to look like studying what the boat should have been like, and then a lot of sketches. And then my wife helped me with costumes, and she also provided a great breakfast as we got up at 5 o'clock in the morning to have the sunrise from Madison Park in Seattle, which is exactly the right configuration for the Sea of Galilee. It just happened to work that way. But the neighbors that we had a boat that met us on the dock, and the neighbors thought that that was like a drug run, and they called the police. Anyway. Oh, and the original painting is about 8 feet wide, so this is a very large painting and was 2 months on the easel or something like that, after 6 months of preparation. And this painting, this was commissioned by the Wilford Woodruff Papers Foundation. Wilford Woodruff was the 4th president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and he was a prolific letter writer, 10,000 letters in his lifetime, and so his papers are significant to the history of the church. And so the foundation that is digitizing all of his letters commissioned this painting of his baptism in, I think, 1832 on January 1st in upstate New York, where the water was colder, I think, than Puget Sound. And what was fun for me about this, and I wish I had the photograph of the photographer who crawled out on the ice to take the picture of the models who actually dunked in cold water at a place called Ensign Ranch up on Snoqualmie Pass. And, you know, when people are really faithful, they'll do anything you ask. They didn't even get paid. But this was unveiled at Brigham Young University. And this painting is still on my easel, and it's not done. And this is a swimming hole that my family, where I grew up swimming here. This is in Hell's Canyon. It's a place called Buffalo Eddy. We're on the Washington side looking at the Idaho side. The painting is called The Currents of Buffalo Eddy, and I have painstakingly tried to recreate the figure 8 eddies. There are 2 eddies going different directions there, which often creates whirlpools in the middle of the river. The river is not that deep on either end of this S-curve through the river, but it's a 150-foot deep sturgeon hole right here. And my sister's ashes were scattered there last year. So it's significant to me on both ends of life. And, but I'm putting into the painting more stories than just ours. The gentleman on the lower left, as I started this one actually with a plein air painting. So after the family scattered my sister's ashes, then I went and got out the easel and set up and did a painting live, which was a precursor to this studio painting. But I asked this guy on the beach, "Are you Nimipu?" Nimipu is what the Nez Perce Indians call themselves. And he says, "Yup." "Do you know Stacia?" "Yup." Very, and Stacia was somebody that I knew who owned the Nez Perce Tourism that runs jet boats up the river to teach tourists about Nez Perce culture. And this spot on the river is sacred to the Nimipu. There are 10,000-year-old hieroglyphs there, which used to get vandalized until it's now a national park. Is it a national park or a state park? I'm not sure. I can look it up. But anyway, he's an important part of this painting, as are the other users of the river who are more contemporary. Well, he's contemporary, but you know, there are overlapping stories there. And I think that a good painting should have more things in it than what the artist brings to it, that the viewer can come and see their own stories in a good painting too. So, so that's my art. The part that seems to have gotten skipped, excuse me. Does that mean I'm out of time? Probably. Well, if you have a shepherd's crook, tell me when it's time to go. What happens if I go around again? No, you know, it might be because I have the wrong file extension. So some other pictures, after the wedding painting pictures, I still do wedding paintings in oils like these, but the new trend in weddings is what they call guest portraits, where I do a watercolor sketch of all the guests. And I crank them out as fast as I can. I did caricatures. I did show some caricatures. Like, that's a caricature done in the studio. But if somebody hires me to do caricatures at an event, I'm just doing a one-line, quick face, no typewriter. I don't ask them, what do you like to do? And I can knock those out one a minute. But the guest portraits in watercolors take a little while longer, especially if I want to do some detail. I need to grab a blow dryer and then do the detail. And my wife comes and assists me, which helps me not do all the talking and actually work. And then I can try to do more. That doesn't always work. I still talk. Anyway. So those watercolor guest portraits, somehow the pictures didn't get included here. What else got missing? I think that's most everything that I brought. I'm sorry. Oh, well, that's what a detail, this is a close-up detail of a wedding painting that's in alla prima. It does kind of look caricature-y, doesn't it? But this is in oils, and those faces are probably an inch high, inch and a half high. And that's done live, one and done. And, you know, when I go back and look at all the other pictures and I think, yeah, that one's not as good as others. What I love about this one is her eyes. And it's not, you know, like this is a great rendition of an eye. It's like, did I get their personality? Do they look at that and say, that's me? Oh, there we go. That's what the watercolor sketches look like at the weddings. So it's very quick, and it's very wet, and you'd see why I need a blow dryer. The blow dryer almost becomes a brush because I'm moving the wet water around. Oh, you know what else didn't show up? Okay, I'll keep going. We'll see if we find anything. There we go. The city of Tacoma was one of my clients for 10 or 15 years. Even though I lived in Seattle, I had to get a city of Tacoma business license. I don't fault them for that. This, hold on. Nope, not there. There we go. Affectionately, I call this poodle poo. I don't know if you've lived in Tacoma for a while. Well, you probably still get something in your mailbox every month from the city of Tacoma. But I was working for the my client was the Environmental Services Department of the city of Tacoma. And what I did for their newsletters were sketches like this about things to educate you about, like which bin to put your garbage in. And if she can do it, you can do it, was the idea for that one. But this more elaborate ink on paper and colored in Adobe Illustrator. This is a board game which the city, they had a team of educators who go to the schools. And this particular team produced board games to teach children about environmental principles. In this case, this one was for kindergartners and probably through second grade, teaching them where the poop goes. And I learned things about this too. Like I didn't know that, your stormwater, your storm drain does not go to a treatment plant. It goes to Commencement Bay. And that's true in every city. Anyway, they actually devised a game and the kids would play it. And there was another one, which I didn't include a photo of, that was like the salmon cycle. And you would be the salmon starting in the mountains and going to the ocean and coming back. Anyway, so I didn't include any storyboards. Storyboards are for an ad agency, but not the same as for film, but for an ad agency, if they wanted to pitch an idea to a client and say, we want to do a TV commercial that does this, and their client can't visualize, they need somebody to draw a picture of it, and that would be me. So, and I did that until the business changed. So I don't do that anymore. The tulips, thank you. Actually, tomorrow morning I'll be on King 5 morning show with the author of this book, Vanessa Harrington, and she hired me to illustrate this book about Farmer Andrew, the colorblind tulip farmer, who is a real person who has a real tulip farm in Skagit Valley. And so it's self-published by the farm, and during the Tulip Festival in a few weeks, I get to go up and sign books with the author, which we'll talk about tomorrow morning about 8:30. Any questions? In the back.
Wait, have any of your caricatures appeared in the New Yorker magazine?
No, not the New Yorker.
Some of those look really familiar to me.
Yeah, well, my style's an awful lot like styles they use there. It's funny because back in the day before we all had websites, illustrators would have a hand-bound portfolio that they would take to a magazine. And I went to New York, and I went to the New York Times, and I met with Stephen Heller, who was a famous art director, and I showed him my illustrative style, and he looked at it for like not even 2 seconds. He said, I can get this here. So no, I didn't do any for the New York Times. I did for Oxford University Press, Scholastic, I named some other of those educational publishing titles. And those were all work for hire. I'm so sorry. Mark knows what that means. Anyway, go ahead.
I just have one other question.
I can talk loud, Lynn.
Go ahead.
That Hell's Canyon with the eddies, I would love to see that place. Where exactly is it located?
Okay, if you go on your map and you find Lewiston and Clarkston, Lewiston, Idaho, Clarkston, Washington, where the Snake River through Hell's Canyon, it divides, it runs along the state line of Idaho with, at first Oregon and then Washington. And then when that river turns and goes west to the Columbia River, that's where you'll find Lewiston and Clarkston, and it is 15 miles upriver from that, which means south.
That just looks like a fascinating location.
It is one of the places of my dreams where, oh, did we see these portraits? I don't know how this happened. Well, this is my self-portrait 2014. And in the background, in my studio that I had in Pioneer Square, is the painting, It Is the Lord, the one with the boat, kind of cropped off. Portrait of my nephew. These are in oils. This is a commission portrait from a photograph. This, could we have that any bigger? No.
Unfortunately, no, that's on the PDF.
Okay.
I can only expand the individual
Okay,
photos.
so I needed to use a bigger file. Okay, sorry. So this is a commission portrait, and that's a detail. This is also a commission portrait, but it's miniature. It's like 3 inches high, maybe 4 inches high, and it's painted on marble. So, like I went to, a bathroom store that has slabs of marble, and I got scrap, and I cut them down, and I do these miniatures. And this is one of the things I did during COVID, because I sell them for much less than I sell a big painting, and I could get more work when I wasn't getting enough work. Pet portraits still, too. 3-inch high puppy dog. This is 16 inches or something, oil on linen. So, okay.
Mark has a question.
Yes, Mark.
Sam, a lot of your paintings have water elements in them. Did anyone teach you how to draw water, or did you just have to really mess with that for a long time until you got it right?
I'm still messing with it. Yeah, and I think that it's really important to paint it from life. I mean, because the photo of, I took photo reference of Buffalo Eddie. Oh. Did we see this one? No. This is called Melissa Mermaid Makes a Friend. And the mermaid is my friend who just broke the North American record for ice swimming, which means that she swam like 2.5 miles, I think, in water that was 38 degrees. But she spent so much time out there in Puget Sound that she names the seals. And I forget which one she named that one. Oh, my wife and I like to go to Italy. This is in, the painting's called the Val di Chiana, which is the name of the valley. But this is in Cortona. From a photograph that Jane took of me, the window is actually the window's narrow, but the view is expansive. So I changed the size of the window and put our cat in there. From that darker period of my life, this is called Man with a Heart on His Sleeve. Oh, this is called Mercy and Justice. When we've been wronged, we all want justice, but when we do wrong, we want mercy. It's called American Uncertainty. Come what may. And by the way, the women in these paintings are some of my swimming friends, so if Justice looks like she can wield that sword, it's because she used to row for UW, too. Oh, this is actually a family portrait. Am I so over time? Can I explain this? This is called Americans. And at the very top of the family tree, you see these 2 girls' parents. And their mother is my cousin Amy, so she's my first cousin. Their father is from Mexico. He's from Oaxaca. We see his parents. We see his grandmother. We see there's a very dark story there, symbolized by the man standing out in the Oaxacan countryside. We have the semi-mythical Spanish grandmother because they don't really have anything but family lore about her. And as you go further down there, you see the Santa Maria of Columbus, because, well, this is a story of migration. On the other side, going from the top to the left, is my cousin Amy, her parents. Her father is my father's brother, so immediately below him are the grandparents that I share with these girls' mother. But to the left of my grandfather is my aunt's Jewish Ukrainian immigrant family who came after the pogroms in the 1890s to New York City. And then, of course, we see the migration, the westward migration, which involves, my family came across with the Mormon pioneers, but other family members came across just the Oregon Trail. And below that, we see my and their Civil War ancestor. And below that, our Revolutionary War ancestor, whose name and birth date we do not have, but we just have family lore. And then the Mayflower, which I'm sure we did not come over on, but it's there to balance out the fact that the English side and the Spanish side all migrated, and that everybody here is children of immigrants, with the exception of the Oaxacan ancestors of the Mixtec tribe, represented by the Mixtec skull at the base of the tree. And by the way, the tree is on one side a Mexican oak and the other side an American oak, and they are grafted together.
Any more questions?
Thanks, Lynn. Well, it's not really a question, but Sam, I've seen a lot of your work, but I'm blown away by the range, and I'm blown away by the range of your work. It's incredible. And I would love to know, and probably everyone else here, if we might have a chance at some point to see a lot of your portraits in your landscape, and the one you're currently working on, which is beautiful, in person, because it's a whole different experience.
You mean you want me to come back and take up more of your time?
Yes, please.
I think she's asking, are you showing in galleries or something?
Oh, that too. No, I don't presently have a gallery. Okay, I've never had a gallery that represented me like, some artists have an exclusive with a gallery, and I've been in some galleries, but I've never been represented by one. I've always represented myself. And by the way, one person, I think an artist, that I was talking about the diversity of all the stuff that I do, and he said, it sounds like you're just very badly managed. Well, I'm the manager, and I guess I can own that. I should say that when I was growing up, I was like, am I going to be an artist or am I going to be a cartoonist? And illustration was kind of a blend of those. And I'm going back now to the illustration to do some books. So I'm sorry about not having a gallery. If you know one that would like to take me on, I'd like to talk to them.
Sam, your website, samday.com, can people buy prints of any of the art you have?
Yeah, some of it. And I should put up more. I haven't set up for print on demand, but if you ask me, I'd like a print of that. I can arrange that, yes. But there are some that are available, and I do have some in stock, like the Buffalo Eddie will be, but it's not finished yet. So, but I have like the Bathhouse Guard and Melissa Mermaid Makes a Friend. You can buy prints of those. And I also have stickers of some of those that are cheap.
Great. Thank you so much. That was great. The next tripod is April 17th. That's the third Friday of the month, as usual. I have no idea who's coming, so it'll be a surprise. Of course, I'll send you an invitation or 2 or 3 over the next month. Thanks for coming.